What up, guys? It's Dr. Vic, and you're listening to another episode on the Mindful Chiropractor. Excited to be back here with you. Thank you for being on. This topic is something that I feel needs to be addressed. It's something that I want to dive into today. It's going to talk a lot about the essence of when it comes to practice, or if you're a student, or if you're somebody who is just starting out. I think this is very critical. I wish I kind of had this in some ways, like a reality check, but in a certain way, some other things. And before we get into today's topic, I do want to let you know that I do have two spots available for chiropractors for coaching. And so in the show notes below, there's a link called Call with Dr. Vic. It takes you through an app to see where you're at, where you are in practice, what's some of the things you're facing, what are some of the goals you want to achieve. And in there, you go ahead and submit that, and then it'll allow you to book a call with me. And what we'll do is we'll dive in to go through all that. It's 30 minutes, absolutely free. I always request that I only look for serious inquiries, though, with this, because I'm going to share information to help you. And at the same token, I do take some time to break that application down to really process how I can help you and so much more. So if that sounds like you've been looking to get I don't want to say the word unstuck. A lot of people use that term in the coaching world, and I just think it's overused and overplayed. I like more of, if you really want to find fulfillment in life and in your practice, if you want to break through the programs of the subconscious mind and limiting beliefs, because if we don't go there, it doesn't matter what you do. Things will just keep coming back, and they show in different faces. So if you're looking to really create radical change in your practice and your life and find true fulfillment, no systems that are just shared with everybody and things like that, if that's you, let's have that conversation. And if you're not ready for coaching, or coaching is not an interest to you, I have a free chiropractic group where you can go ahead and check us out in Facebook. And it's called the Prosperous Chiropractic Club. You can find the link in the show notes below. Join. It's free. I share a lot of mindset stuff in there. I share a ton of content when it comes to mindset, chiropractic stuff here, and so much more. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this topic. And it's one of the things about resiliency, but I want to talk about it in a different way than it's kind of been shared. You see, because in business, right, it's all about mental awareness and coming over adversity and grinding the hustle, and just got to keep grinding and hustling no matter what. Well, I coach, if you don't know, I also coach business owners. And it's one of the things where 60+% of business owners are burned out. Chiropractors are 55%, I believe. I think these numbers are low, in my opinion. But we hear this advice, we keep doing it. It just keeps leading to more burnout, right? It's like thinking that we can be stressed all day long and just think that everything's going to be perfectly fine, and nothing's going to, we're never going to have a negative effect from that. But we're all going to face adversity in some aspect of practice and in our life. It's going to happen. It's not a smooth road. If you go watch all the chiropractors on Facebook, and it's not just chiropractors, it's business owners and everybody else. I see it in the coaching world. I talk to coaches. I'm killing it, man. I'm doing absolutely. I'm like, hold up. I've talked to now like 30 coaches straight, and they're all killing it in business. But if I look at the metrics and the numbers, that shouldn't be happening. And so either the metrics and the stats are wrong, or people are just not trying to say what they really are. And struggle is going to happen, but it's the aspect of understanding how to sit with it. Shit's going to hit the fan in practice. You're going to have patients leave. People aren't going to sign up. An associate may leave. A staff member may leave unexpectedly. There may be bad pressing. Who knows? It could be endless things, right? And this is not to be a bad thing on you. It's just understanding that these things are going to come. It's ebb and flow, ups and downs. It's the way of life. Life is a sine wave. We have our ups, and then we're going to have our downs. This too shall pass, right? It's mostly told when we're in the crappy times of life, but it's also in the good. But it's the art of sitting with oneself. You see, because when we face these adversity, you don't really know what you really have going on within unless you're pressed, unless you're stressed. A lot of times we think that we can go ahead and we talk a good game when everything's going well, right? When everything's going well, and I see this with clients sometimes too, like everything's going well, so they take the foot off the gas pedal. They get a little more comfortable. They don't keep that intense focus and commitment and discipline. And how many times have we done that in practice in life? I've done it. Yeah, that's why sometimes people have a yo-yo effect, right? Practice goes up, it goes down. It goes up, and it goes down. And there may be other things to that, but a lot of times it comes to that process of we like comfort. And we'll say, no, we don't. I want to grind. I want to hustle. I want to grow. But yet the numbers don't lie. The numbers never lie. And that's where we can look at things and understand if your practice goes up and goes down, it goes up and goes down, it goes up and goes down. Yeah, you have a comfort issue. Like you get out of your comfort zone, brain goes, oh crap, we're not used to this. We retract back, and then all of a sudden we go back down to comfort. I did this for a few years. I could never understand how I would break a record in practice, patient volumes and patient, collections and all that stuff. And then yet I get pulled back. And I'd be like, I don't get this. It'll be a couple months later, I'll be right back where I was. Sometimes it was a week later. And I'd be like, how is this happening? At first I was like, all right, whatever, fine. Just got to keep grinding, keep hustling, right? Since that mentality, what you're told, just keep hiding the groceries. I didn't even pay attention to it. But eventually it kept happening. And I said, no, there's something to this. There's something deeper. I'm missing something. And it has nothing to do with what I'm doing in my practice. Because of that adversity, because it was kind of frustrating. I wasn't growing as fast as I like, or I needed to actually. And it was because of that adversity of keep facing this roadblock that the finances became short again, that I had to look within and say, there's something else going on. And so I sat with it. A lot of times, especially in the Western Hemisphere, especially in North America, we're all about positive mindset, right? Some people, either when I talk to them or so forth, be like, I'm very positive. I stay positive, and all I do is I do my affirmations and all these other things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is we're too stuck on being in the positive. Sometimes I'll have a client that goes, I know you talk, Doc, you're all about mindset and vibe and keeping focus on where your energy is, your vision, and what you want to go to and all these things. And they're like, I'm doing all that. So I'm making sure my vibe does not go down, but yet the practice or whatever may be going on, it's not doing well. And I'd be like, your focus is, there's two things that are going on. One, your focus is still on the scarcity because you're reacting, which most times that is. But two, you're resisting. And what that means is you're resisting the pain. You're staying away from the darkness. I wrote a whole book on this. And it's one of the things that you're not allowing to let the pain teach you. Right? They say there's no pain, no gain, right? The whole workout fitness world came up with that. Well, there's truth to that in life. And the thing about that is this. When you have pain, you will continue to have more pain show up in your life unless you sit with it and process it so you can gain. If we don't learn from things that make us uncomfortable and understand why, then they're going to continue to repeat themselves over and over. Life will give you signs and warnings. And if you don't change, life will make you change. It's the same thing in health. I used to tell my patients this all the time. You've had this experience yourself. You've been in practice for 3 to 5 years. You've had this story. Someone comes into your office. Most of the time it's a male. Doc, I don't know what I did. I was picking up my kid's toy, my kid's Lego, my kid's this. I went to go reach for something. I went to pick up a Kleenex. My back went out. Gotcha. Do you think it was the weight of the Kleenex or, in some way, shape, or form that made your back go out? Yes, I asked that question. And of course, they look at me and go, no, absolutely. I mean, how many times have you done that? Thousands of times. Okay. So then let me ask you this. Have you ever had like an achy back, stiffness, tightness, or a slight pain? Or maybe your back went out for like a day and then it came back. Or maybe it was almost going to go out. Oh, yeah, Doc, I've had that on and off for years. Okay. And what did you do about it? Nothing. You put a hot bath with some ice, whatever, took some painkillers, whatever it is, muscle relaxers, fine. Okay, cool. So let me ask you this question then. This is why I go through patients. So then I will be like, okay, so let me ask you this question. The body will always give you warnings. And if you don't pay attention to the first one, they're going to get a little stronger in the second. If they're going to continue to get worse and worse, they're eventually going to lead up to a point where all of a sudden it's the needle that broke the needle that broke the camel's back. And I feel like that saying's wrong. The straw that broke the camel's back. And so it's the straw that broke the camel's back. Yet we put our focus on the straw that broke the camel's back, not paying attention to all the accumulation effects of what happened. So if the body is always going to give you a warning sign of what's going on, if we ignore it, it's going to make it bigger. Just like if life doesn't, again, I say this to patients, just like if you don't change, life's going to make you change. Do you think it was something to do with that? And sometimes they'll say, no, not at all. But most of the time they'll be like, I never thought of it that way. That kind of makes sense because you know what? If they're really being introspective, it did. I seen a pattern. I remember it used to get worse and started to get worse. And then it was fine. And 3, 4, 6 months down the road or a year down the road, it got worse again. And I said, it's basically like saying this. You have a small fire that's going on. You have a small fire alarm that's going off. The fire starts to get bigger, the louder the fire alarm is absent. These are your pain, your symptoms, whatever that's going to show up. Eventually, there's going to come a point. Now what you have is a big fire going on in your house, and then you have the big alarm going off. And now it's gotten your attention. And now you're taking action because you feel like there's something wrong. And so this is something I will take patients through in a consult because it's critically important to have them understand what we do from a psychological perspective. You have to put it in their world. Everybody can understand a fire and a fire alarm. That's what our pain symptoms are anyhow. Pain isn't where you have it. That's all in the brain. We know that already. Neuroscience has proven it. Pain is just perception. You don't have to believe me. This is what functional neurologists are saying. So, but coming back to the point of all this, right? Why am I sharing all this? You got to sit with this process of your uncomfortableness. Yeah, I could tell you the cute little saying of you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. There is truth in that. But sitting with things and doing some introspective work is more valuable than anything else in the world. Reflection and self-awareness, journaling your feelings, right? Journaling your feelings is hypercritical because journaling your feelings is, some people get into like all the benefits of it. I teach clients this, but it's journaling. One, your feelings when you're not in a great place is great because you can get the stuff out of you, get that garbage out. Okay. There was a book written, I think it was in 1920s, maybe early 1930s, but it was the neurophysiological effects, something, I don't remember the name of it. It's an old book. I joke with my patients because I tell them, I'll tell them about like, you have to get that energy out of your nervous system. If you don't, it overstimulates that nervous system, which will drive up your gas pedal reactions. And it starts to get hardwired into your nervous system, which we call a subluxation. And I'll say that to them. And I say it's brand new science, 1930s, 1920s, 1930s. And what it talks about is that if you have anger and frustration or something like that, and you don't exert that physically out of your system, nervous system specifically, what ends up happening is that's going to stay stored in the nervous system. They're literally talking about a subluxation right there. And I teach patients this because you have to, process through the stuff. But the same thing happens for you as the individual. When we journal, it gets this stuff out emotionally. But what journaling will also do is give you pattern recognition and self-awareness to see your patterns and your reactions to what you do so you could understand a deeper level of what that is. And this starts to open that door to allow you to uncover things. This is, to me, in my opinion, is where true power starts to come in because now you're starting to understand what is your triggers, what is your reactions, what is the constant thoughts and the words and the stories that you're telling yourself. And you're starting to understand the negative cycles and loops within the brain and understanding what's showing up. This could be a little bit of some subconscious work. I'm not saying this gets everything, but this starts to just create some self-awareness because the first solution to all problems is self-awareness or awareness in general. And that's usually 50 to 90%. So if we can get aware of these things, we can start transcending our practices. When I work with clients on this level, and when we do this kind of work, their practices grow without doing no extra business tips or things that I can teach them when it comes to like, I don't know, there's a lot of business stuff out there, especially when AI has come around. It's tripled, quadrupled what we can do now. And so there's endless stuff that we can do from a business standpoint to create strategies and growth processes and all this stuff. And I teach clients this. I have 8 ways to build new patients. I have 3 ways to increase your conversions over 80%, 90%. I have also 8 different ways to build and create retention. So these are things I teach my clients who work with me, but it's one of these elements that you can, when you really work on these things and really address them, literally your practice changes. I can't tell how many times I've had patients. I have a patient right now who's just doubled his practice, and it's one of the things where we didn't do any new business concepts. No organic marketing processes and sales and specifics in social media, no result oriented practice sharing and reviews and stuff like that, no SEO stuff, none of that stuff. What we focused on was the individual. And when we address the real issues showing up internally, things change. And I have clients that struggle too with that. I'm not going to lie. There's some clients I have that are struggling right now. But at the same token, there's inner battle stuff they have to work through and guiding them as much as I can to what they're comfortable. Some people don't want to do the inner work. Sometimes it's easier to you know what things are and it keeps you comfortable, and that's okay. And you're fine with that deep down somewhere instead of going into the unknown. So what are some things that you can do? And I already mentioned one, but what are some things you can do to help you in this process? What can give you retrospect when you get frustrated, when you react? Okay. It's all about reaction. So I just want to make sure I emphasize it's the reactions that we're talking about here. So when you react and get frustrated, you didn't get the numbers you wanted for the month, you have patients dipping down, you're paying attention to the numbers, you went to a networking event, it didn't work out, you did Facebook ads, it failed, whatever it may be. The first thing is journal that stuff out. We already talked about it. I already told you why it's important. All right. The second thing is actually the first thing when I tell clients is breath work. Unless they've done meditation or they're comfortable with doing meditation, it's going to be breath work. We need to reset your nervous system. We need to reset it so it can come back to a neutral point to step back into your power. Because when we're reacting, we're giving our power away, which doesn't allow us then to thrive in business and life and all that great stuff. And so the key factor is to reset the nervous system and then journal is what I like to do. Talk about like a neural hack. Because what you're doing is you're resetting your nervous system, you're centering yourself, and you can be more introspective. And then you can journal that. Powerful stuff. Now you may ask, what kind of breath work, Doc? What do you recommend? Doesn't matter. Do what works for you. That's what I tell my clients. I share about 12 different ways to do breath work. And I tell them, find which one works what you like. Now, why do I say that? Because the science has shown that breath work works. It works. Neurologically, it does. It doesn't matter which one. It doesn't say Wim Hof. It doesn't say Soma breath or Rise breath or holotropic. It doesn't say the pranayamas in yoga. Right? It didn't get specific, or just simple 10 deep breaths, or 6 actually. The research doesn't specifically go to one specific type of breath work. A 4-7-8, square breathing. There's so many out there. It just says that breathing at a certain pace works. And so then we have that aspect of things. So when we're looking at the overall picture, I'm giving you 2 tools. I can give you many more, but I don't want to overcomplicate this. Do the breath work. Go on YouTube, pick one out. One of the names I said, have fun with it. I interviewed twice now the creator of Soma breath work. You can find that on my other podcast, The Mindful Experiment. Just look up Niraj Naik. Naik Niraj. He's the pharmacist, a renegade pharmacist. He's good friends with Wim Hof. He does all the music for Wim Hof. And I recommend listening to the first episode, not the second. The second was more about COVID and things that we discussed, but the first one was in depth about the science and the psychology, the neurology and the neuroscience, the breath work and the influence and where he came up with his and so forth. But let's keep it simple. Do those 2 things. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think. Let me know how it's helping you, and so much more. If you have any questions at all, let me know. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share a review. This helps out the podcast get out there to really help other chiropractors get away from the hustle and bustle. They get away from thinking what's the next thing they have to do from a business perspective. They do all these other things, which I'm saying they're not important. Not that they're not important. But I think we're coming to a time in business and in life where it's time we start to awaken or step into or shift how we function from a Newtonian physics way to a quantum physics way. And I believe this is where the new ways are moving to. A lot of people I talk to, very, very well-to-do, been in the space of this stuff for 20, 30 years, talk about how the old model is breaking down and we're going into a new, and this is the new way. And I'm just happy that I've been studying this for so long that I can share this with you guys. And this is why I've been doing this for 5 years, teaching business owners this. And it was a little over a year ago, I thought I need to teach chiropractors this. I got out my profession out in some way, shape, or form. And those who listen will listen, and those who don't. I'm not trying to take that level. But anyhow, please share a review. Helps out the podcast. Check out the stuff in the show notes with the whole, if you're interested in the call, if you're interested in the free group. And appreciate you. And until next time, keep rocking and rolling.